Welcome back to the Valor Flight Crew podcast, hosted by Echo and brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and Vertical Valor magazine. In this episode, we sit down with Jack Shanley, co-host of the Hangar Z podcast and respected voice in aviation and public safety, to explore one of the most vital aspects of our profession, risk management. Together, we dive deep into the human factors that shape decision-making, the balance between leadership and ego, and the importance of a culture where every crew member feels empowered to speak up. Through personal stories and hard-earned lessons from Jack's extensive law enforcement aviation career, this conversation uncovers the difference between simply managing risks and truly understanding it. From accountability and communication to the continuous pursuit of improvement, this episode challenges us all to rethink what it means to fly safely, lead effectively, and go beyond the FRAT. Thank you to our sponsors, Copter Safety, Metro Aviation, and Precision Aviation Group.
Welcome to the Valor Flight Crew podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and Vertical Valor magazine. Produced in partnership with Echo, Every Coast Helicopter Operations, the Valor Flight Crew podcast promotes the personnel and life-saving equipment behind helicopter air ambulance services. Join hosts Mike Fideli and Blake Schreider for in-depth interviews and expert insights from air medical personnel, pilots, communication specialists, and maintenance crews who play critical roles in airborne emergency response.
Line 1 accepting.
Copy, Line 1, gotcha, accepting. You're going to be talking to Red Feather 1 on LCEMS.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Valor Flight Crew podcast. Mike Fideli and Blake Schreider here. How are you today, Blake?
Doing good, Mike. How about you?
I'm doing all right. I'm coming off of a night shift, which I don't work too many night shifts. My body is hating me at the moment, but it was a pretty good couple nights at work. Some extra time, some OT for vacation, so I'll take it.
There you go. Always reminds you you're not 21 anymore.
My body is telling me that every single day anymore. But I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So at this point, we're going to keep on going with where we're at. I love it. We got a great podcast for you guys today. Really looking forward to having this discussion with Jack Shanley from the Hangar Z podcast. It's going to be an honor to have this discussion, just talking about our risk assessments and what we're actually missing within those. And I think this is an extremely important conversation to have, because I think we go through those motions all the time of doing our risk assessments and trying to identify what kind of factors might be out there and how we can make ourselves a little bit safer. But I still think that there's a piece of that puzzle that's missing. And I'm looking forward to hearing what Jack has to say about all of that and looking into some of those discussions.
Absolutely. Welcome, Jack.
Thanks, Blake. Thanks, Mike. I'm honored to be here with you guys.
We're honored to have you here. Before we get into it, just want to give a huge shout out to our partners over the Vertical Helicast team. If you guys aren't listening to the other podcasts out there, make sure you head on over to verticalhelicast.com and check out the Helicopter Podcast, Real Rescue Podcast, Vertical MRO Podcast, and of course the Hangar Z Podcast, which is how we met Jack. And we're super excited to have this conversation with you today. So welcome again.
Yeah, thanks.
So Jack, if you don't mind, before we kind of get into it, if you can just give us a little bit of I know probably most of our listeners already know who you are just from listening to the Hangar Z, because I know that they're all listening to both of our podcasts. If you can just give us a little bit of a rundown of your background and flight experience and how you got to where you are.
Oh, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version here and tell you that
Say the CV was a little long.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It's ridiculous. I look at it and just go, did I really do all these things? I mean, it went like a blur. I mean, I've been in law enforcement almost my whole life. I mean, I started while I was in college in Berks County, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
with the Berks County Sheriff's Department. A few years as a part-timer, moved to Los Angeles from Kutztown, a town of 5,000, to Los Angeles, second biggest city in America overnight. Crazy. I mean, it's crazy.
Change. Yeah.
It was, a little bit of change. I was in shock for months. But I went out for the job. I became a Los Angeles police officer in 83, worked a wide variety of jobs, patrol, Hollywood Vice. I worked canine, worked Metropolitan Division, and then I got an opportunity to go to air support, which got me into the aviation side. I was a tactical flight officer for a couple of years. I was the chief tactical flight officer for about a year. And then I switched seats to pilot, and I finished my career as a pilot, 16 years as a pilot, so 19 in air support, flying law enforcement missions, mostly patrols and some surveillance. I ended up in the training shop of the unit. Ended up teaching people how to fly. Did check rides for pilots, all sorts of different positions and cadres and things going on within the division that I worked. And then I retired in 2016 and moved out of California and took a job at the police academy here in Oregon, part-time, just go over there 4, 5, 6 days a month.
Just for fun every now and then.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, it kept me in the game, and I'm giving back a little bit,
Yeah.
and I teach, I instruct mostly firearms now, but I was building search for a long time, traffic stops, things like that.
Yeah.
And then I've had a class that I created 25 years ago that I've been doing for 25 years, and it's taken me around the world. It's about apprehending suspects that are running away from law enforcement on foot, how to contain them, search for them, capture them safely, efficiently, using air assets, K9 patrol, SWAT, all those things. And yeah, it's been a great ride. It's been an incredible ride, and I feel really lucky. And then one day, John Gray comes along and invites me onto the Hangar Z, and I was a guest there 3 times. Loved it. I just loved it. It was so much fun. And one day he called and said, "Hey, Jeff's going back to he's going to be so busy. We could really use you. Would you come on board?" And I said yes before he finished his sentence. And the rest is history.
Into it that quick,
Right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Didn't
I
take
jumped
long.
in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I leaped at it. And I've been on the Hangar Z as the co-host since episode 100 was my first one. We
Awesome.
were just talking about with Jimmy Hatch, a retired Navy SEAL canine handler, talking about his career, his book, Touching the Dragon, his mental wellness story,
Yeah.
which is absolutely incredible. Every public servant should read Touching the Dragon by James Hatch. It is absolutely one of the most amazing things I've ever read. It's especially about mental wellness, and the rest is history. We're at 289 episodes now, so
That's crazy.
it is crazy.
Where is the
It
time
is.
gone, right?
I know it has flown by. I feel very fortunate to be a small part of it. I'm having a blast. That's how I met you guys. We met a couple of weeks ago at the Echo conference.
Yep.
And that was fun. That was my first Echo. I had an amazing time. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit, but
Sure.
yeah, it's been great. It's been great. The Hangar Z has opened up a whole new world for me.
No doubt.
Especially with Echo. That was very unique for me. I'm meeting air crews, paramedics and flight nurses and, medevac pilots and people that I didn't have a whole lot of contact with prior because of the law enforcement side. Wow, did I learn? I learned some things, and it opened my eyes to some things, and I really enjoyed it. It was a blast. So
It was a good conference this year. And I think, Jack, that just brings home that point that even from the law enforcement side, and it's all realms of public safety aviation, which is really, I mean, Mike and I can just say from doing this podcast, episode 33, the amount of people that we have encountered and met, and the things that we are trying to just talk about and just have these good conversations because we all feel that there's so many things we can take from each side, whether you're sitting left seat, right seat, facing rear, patient care. We talk to, people that are clinicians, and then they fly along in a state police helicopter and they're running FLIR and, they're helping along with the mission,
that's right.
So
That's
it's so
right.
cool how this all ties together.
Yeah. And air crews are air crews when it comes to flight risk, when it comes to risk management, when it comes to evaluating, your situation and being situationally aware, all those topics that they intertwine. It doesn't matter which specific job you're in within public safety aviation.
Right.
They all intertwine. And that's why we can learn from each other's experiences and knowledge and mistakes and successes. And it doesn't have to be, well, he was a cop pilot. Well, or they're a medevac pilot. They don't deal with pursuits. Yeah, but we deal with aviation.
Yeah,
we deal
exactly.
with weather. We deal with emergency procedures. We deal with go, no-go decisions. there's so much intertwined, and that's why I really had a blast at Echo. It was fantastic.
And I think, one of the things that kind of stuck with me, we were recording at the conference with Sean Gavin and had a really great discussion. And, one of the things that we were talking about with the debriefings with him was that, when you're in the aircraft itself, and then when you're doing that post-flight debrief, rank doesn't exist. You are all part of that team. You all hold an integral part of what's going on with that particular mission. And you all have a responsibility to make sure that it's safe and complete. And I think that just kind of like puts it all, back into perspective. When you talk about coming to like these conferences, it doesn't matter what flight suit you wear. It doesn't matter what role you have. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. Everybody can learn from each other, and everybody can be a part of that process. And that's what I think is so cool.
And the one thing that Echo did so well that really jumped out at me, and there was a lot of things. That was a really incredible conference, but the networking is incredible because you all go to the same place for breakfast. It's right there. At lunch, you're there. You're not going out on your own. And at dinner, everybody's going to the same place. Or places, a couple places. Yeah. And next thing you know, you're around people you've never seen before, never met before. You're involved in conversations, and those conversations become some of the best education of the whole week.
Yeah, for sure.
That's one of the things I really noticed that was unique and different with Echo that I liked. A lot because I met a lot of people.
And next thing you know, you're on a podcast. So
That's right.
It's amazing how it works.
Yeah, it is.
It certainly is amazing how it works. And also a huge shout out to you as well for your presentation. You and John were able to put together an amazing law enforcement track at the Echo conference this year, and had heard nothing but amazing things about it.
Good.
I'm only sorry that I didn't get to pop in and be part of some of those discussions, but a phenomenal job to both of you guys to be able to put all that together.
Well, thank you. John came up with that idea. He said, I want to get you and Clay Lacey on the same stage. And I'm like, that'd be cool.
For sure.
Because Clay and I've known each other for
how can you go wrong with
time.
that?
Yeah. And so he ran with that idea. You guys supported the idea. Echo liked the idea. And I, from my perspective, Clay and I walked away and said, that was amazing. We had the most interactive class that either of us have had in years.
Wow.
And that's a fact. And we believe it's because they were comfortable, they were fed, they had coffee available. I'm not kidding you. I mean,
the most important part.
Yeah, it does. And they were happy. They were like, I don't have to think. I can just come to this classroom. Echo's taking care of me here. I can just learn. And we got more questions in that 2 days than the previous 2 years. That's when police work, that's called a clue. And,
I see why you have such a long-standing career in police.
Yes. Clay and I just looked at each other and said, wow. So we were thrilled to be invited, and we're glad that it turned out the way it did. It was really good.
Well, that's phenomenal. And thank you guys again. But back to the podcast itself today and where we want to go with things. I know you gave a presentation at Echo regarding it's called Beyond the FRAT, and really looking at some of those other factors that kind of go into our daily briefs and what parts or pieces of that we're missing. Before we get into that, can you kind of give us a little bit of an maybe impactful story from your career that maybe exemplifies how, the risk analysis process, how it either could have been changed or potentially impacted the outcome of your mission by looking at some of these other factors?
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
I'm going to, as I I'll do a little intro to that incident that I'm going to tell you about. But the intro is that every pilot, every aircrew says, I'm safe. I'm very safety oriented. I'm a safe pilot. I'm a safe crew member. I analyze risk properly. Everybody says that. Not everybody does it. And that's just because we're human.
Right.
So but we all do it to a point, or we wouldn't be in the business very long. So I had a safety officer named Mark Bolanos, and he changed me when it came to this topic of risk management. I give him 100% credit that he changed my particular personal beliefs, attitudes, and actions when it came to safety and risk analysis. And it happened on the deck over how we were going to paint something on the heliport for our Chile fly-in. We had a conflict about it where I said, are you freaking kidding me? I mean, I'm yelling at him and he's yelling at me over the, well, it should be like the other two spots. It shouldn't be filled in. And he was looking at it from a safety officer perspective. And I dismissed it. I honestly dismissed it. And it wasn't until later that I realized, Jack, you're an idiot. Marco was looking at it from his job perspective, which is full-time safety officer.
Right.
He's right. You're wrong. And you, me, need to change and be more like Marco. And that was the day. We both talk about it to this day. Yeah, remember that on the deck that day?
That slice of humble pie sometimes.
It is. And he was right. I was wrong. So fast forward. He and I end up working together on so many things that impacted safety. So the story I'll give you, and I'll keep it as brief as I can, because it was a significant story. We were being asked to insert scuba divers into the LA harbor for a training day. Now, it's something that the air unit, LAPD Air Support, used to do. And there's some pictures of them coming off a Huey, even off a Jet Ranger, over water and being deployed into the water. And it was a really cool photo op. So, sure. But it hadn't been done for years. And all of a sudden, one day, Marco and I, safety officer and the lead, me of the cadre that's going to do it, hear through the grapevine that there's a training day coming up to do just that. And we go, that's funny. A training day being planned without the lead cadre member or the safety officer, more importantly, right, even knowing about it. So we looked into it. Sure enough, it was being planned. And we said, well, why are we doing this? Because the dive team wants to do it. Okay. Have we looked at it from a risk perspective? Well, we've done it in the past. It's fine.
We've always done it that way. It's fine.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. You hover over the water, they jump into the water. What's the big deal? And when you think about it in those simple terms, it isn't a big deal. Can I hover a helicopter over water? Yes, I can. If there's somebody in the back with scuba equipment on and they just jump out and into the water, is that a big deal? No, not really. However, in a single engine helicopter over water, and now you start adding to that list, why are we doing it? What's this for? What's the mission we're training for? All that. Long story short, Marco and I said, we're not going to participate in this without a full risk analysis, a FRAT, and beyond the FRAT, and flight risk assessment tool, FRAT, is very important. And so we decided we're going to do an extensive one. And my first call went to a friend, Glenn Daly, retired NYPD lieutenant. Mm-hmm. And they insert divers into the water off their 412 weekly. I mean, not for training, weekly.
Right.
They insert divers. A diver is assigned to that helicopter 24/7.
Wow.
It's just the way it is. The Hudson, the ocean, the East River, bad things happen. So I called Glenn, who I've known for years. I go, hey, I've been tasked with setting up, I'm doing a risk analysis and helping on this training day for divers into the water off the skids of an A-Star. And he goes, wait, did you just say you're going to insert divers off a single engine helicopter off of water? I said, yeah. He goes, are you freaking crazy? I mean, that was his first response. And I said, it's not me. I didn't come up with this idea. Right. I'm the one that's trying to do the risk analysis. That conversation continued with many, many other things. I went to the United States Coast Guard, LA Air Station. I told them, they said, are you crazy? I mean, everybody's telling us we're crazy. because the first thing they wanted to know was, what mission are you training for? And when we asked that, there were crickets.
Yeah.
Because there is no mission we are training for putting divers in the water. Are we going to respond to an aircraft down off of LAX 3 miles off the coast? No, we're in single engine helicopters. There are twin engine helicopters from the sheriffs, the Coast Guard, the LA City Fire, LA County Fire that specialize in that.
Yeah.
Here's an example. Let's say I put a diver in the water and they have a problem. I mean, it's scuba diving. All of a sudden, their equipment, something, they have a serious problem. And they give us the sign, I need help.
Right.
How am I getting them back in my helicopter? We don't have a hoist.
Yeah.
We have 2 pilots up front. They just jumped off the skids. They're in the water. Maybe
This
they're
is a one-way
drowning.
street.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who's going to rescue them? We're going to call somebody else to come rescue them. See, you can see all the things that added up. Coast Guard said, do you have windshield wipers on your A-Stars? We go, no. They go, you do know that depending on the wind over water at a hover, you will have a coating of water over those windshields where it'll look like fog. And we're like, Marco, we never thought of that one,
Yeah.
So long story short, we put together a very big risk analysis and we did not do that training. Because it was not something that we should be practicing. It wasn't worth the risk. Now, if we were training for a mission, that might have changed it a little bit, but there is no mission. So that's an example of how my new attitude about risk from Marco helped me look at something very in depth. It was extremely in depth. It was pages and pages of things we found. We could talk for hours just on that incident. But those are some of the highlights. And we said no, and we didn't do it.
I think it's crazy when you think through, at least I know from my perspective and coming from the med crew side of things and doing strictly HEMS missions, we're not out there doing any of the hoisting. We're not doing some of those other, alternate mission styles. And I look at the risks and I feel like a lot of times, we take for granted what that risk assessment truly is. Like, we go through the motions every day when we come in at the beginning of our shift, and we're supposed to update things throughout the day as conditions change, or as our level of alertness changes, or number of calls we've been on, or those kind of things. And I feel like a lot of times we just kind of take it for granted. And I think that there's also that like pride aspect to it as well, right?
Yes.
Like, we can do this. That's why we got into this job in the first place. And so we don't even really think about or have that forethought to be like, okay, every single mission, we need to really look into things a little bit further. And it's until you start going down that particular pathway. And obviously that's a little bit of a different situation in that you had the ability to have that forethought and that planning part of it because it was a training, quote unquote, training mission.
Right.
But, a lot of times I don't think we have that ability. We just are like, yeah, we're good to go for the day. And whatever comes in, we're just going to get in that helicopter and we're going to go. We don't really think about it in a different way or put more thought into each of those particular situations to make sure that we are truly operating as safely as humanly possible.
That's exactly right. And it's easy when you're planning for a training day. It's easy for a planned event. And it doesn't have to be training. It could be other things too, which we can get into. But for everyday operations, can you do a risk analysis for everyday operations? And the answer is yes. You just look at, what do we do normally? Well, we do this mission, this mission, this mission, this mission with these variables. Can you do a FRAT, an overall FRAT, based on everyday operations? And the answer is yes. And you might find things, for instance, your heliport or your base that we just take for granted. Well, it's an approved helicopter base. Okay. But are there hazards? Of course there are. There's probably hundreds of hazards. Most of them are innocuous. They're not a big deal, right? And they're not a big deal till they are a big deal. We've identified them, but have we talked about them? And have we mitigated them? There's risks and hazards at everybody's operation, everyday operation. Now you add to that the mission, and there's risks. Can we manage that? Yes, but there's a time when we're going to reach a point where the risk is too great and we can't mitigate it, and we have to say no. And it hurts us. all three of us sitting here,
Yep.
it hurts us to say no,
For
right?
sure.
We're in the business of saving lives, helping people.
Yep.
And we got to go. We got to go. No, you don't. You could create a bigger catastrophe.
There's that self-induced pressure.
It is. And especially in your world, that is a challenge. That part of it, to me, is probably the thing that I always thought about. How do they say no? I mean, they have to. I know they do. But man, it makes it more difficult, as opposed to some copper, wants a roof check, but the weather is kind of crappy. Oh, that's easy to say no to that,
Yeah.
But if that copper is laying there bleeding, that might be,
exactly.
that changes things, doesn't it? So, and you might have to say no to that too. You don't want to. It'll hurt not to say it, but you have to, because it's for the greater good. And creating another disaster isn't going to help that officer or that victim or that traffic accident victim. It's not going to help them if you end up down in the woods someplace or hitting a wire or getting into weather. It's not helping them. You're hurting them even more. So
we often think of when we, and from the HEMS perspective, when we're doing these calls, right? Whether it be a scene call or an air facility, kind of like what Mike said, we kind of take that a little bit for granted, almost in the realm of like, you start your day off, weather's clear, right? Like I know when I go to work tomorrow morning for the next week, 0 rain,
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Blake. I'm on my way to Florida later.
You're welcome. I can finally flaunt the weather right now. And it's actually decent. It was 67 to this morning. My wife might get her Ugg boots out. So I'm not. But I know the weather for the next week is going to be good. So that's how our weather plan is going to start for the day. Weather's great. Humidity low. Shouldn't be any fog. Could there be? Sure. It's Florida. We're surrounded by water on all sides and everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Right. But we have that mind. Like I've already got that mindset, right? I already know that. But then when we get a flight and it's a scene call, well, weather's great. We did good. Everybody's in a good mood. So we're going to take off. We're going to go. But then there's and this has caught us, I should say, and from our program, it was recognized that, especially with scene calls, how unpredictable things can come or become. You head there and you land. And for us as providers, we're anticipating this is the patient that I'm going for. This is what I'm going to do. So we're pre-planning that. And then you get to the scene and, now there's multiple patients and there's only 2 first responders that were able to get here. There's nobody else. And so now it's you and your partner with multiple people. So now those unplanned, changes that, we don't like that. We want things to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And then your mind,
type A personality.
oh, for sure. But then our mind starts to wander, you're like, we'll take care of this. Right. And if we can keep that mindset going about, we like Jack, like you said, we talk about it and we like to think that we're good at it. And I think we do a good job, but there's times that we can be better at it. And
yes,
maybe it's a point where you say, hey guys, we need to take a time out and we need to reassess what we're doing, because now if we load up 2 patients, because this is all that they have, now where are we going to go? What risk am I bringing into this current mission right now? And I think us as providers, like, we're type A, everything is built on regiment and plan and
control.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And we want it to repeat and we want it to be the same and we want that same result.
Even though it never
doesn't
is.
always happen that way.
Thanks to our sponsor, Copter Safety. Based in Finland, Copter Safety is the leading, globally approved simulator training center. They provide a full range of courses for AW139, AW169, H125, and H145 pilots. Customize your special missions training with realistic visuals and specialized instructors. Stay one step ahead of reality with Copter Safety.
Yeah, it's very important what you just said there. Very important. And the mindset. And can you do a FRAT in your head when you land and find out you have multiple I said suspects, there's a cop in me coming out, multiple victims
Suspected
instead of
heart
just
attacks.
one.
There's multiple suspected heart attacks. That's what it is.
Of course you can. And here's the biggest thing that Marco changed in me. He got me to start in my mindset that you're talking about. He got me to start looking at things and saying, okay, you go to this mission, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it's training, real life, whatever. And you do something, or you're about to make a decision about doing something or not doing something. He said, always remember that if it goes badly, if it goes really badly, somebody, the FAA, the NTSB, your owner, your bosses, your chief of police, your sheriff, they're all going to be going, what the heck were you guys thinking? What were you doing there in the first place?
Right.
Don't you have weather minimums? Don't you have this? Don't you have that? Don't you have weight and balance you have to consider? Well, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Why didn't you consider all that? Well, because we really wanted to get the job done. I mean, that is not an excuse to the NTSB.
Nope.
And you're not going to, and hopefully it's not a fatal accident that is caused by those decisions. But the what ifs, and always knowing that somebody is going to ask those questions. So why not ask them before we go? Why not ask them before the training day and say, all right, why are we doing this? Well, we're doing it because of this. Is that a good enough reason to do it? Because if we have a catastrophe, somebody's going to say, what were they thinking? Are they crazy? No, they're professional helicopter pilots and crews. Well, then why the heck were they doing that? Why did they have divers? What's the mission they're training for? Oh, there is none, but it's a cool photo op though. Look at the photo. Cool. That ain't going to fly. That was the biggest thing that Marco changed in me, looking at the what if. And you can apply it to your own life. You can apply it to anything that you do, choosing to go drive to the grocery store on a snowy day. You can have this mindset where I could go to the grocery store. It's really icy out, but I really want some ice cream, and then you crash and people go, well, what were you doing out? Well, I really wanted that ice cream, and they're going to go, are you a moron? So you can apply it to anything. We just happen to be applying it to life and death stuff on a regular basis.
I think that's just it. I mean, to your point, like it's impossible to take that human factor side of things out of it, right?
Yep.
And so I think that we've done a good job in the helicopter EMS world of trying to minimize that emotional component of it with our dispatches not having any patient info attached. It's just, can you or can't you do this flight, right? Because when you start to have that patient component, and then you start to have that, internal dialogue or monologue with yourself where you're like, I need to go do this. I need to help this patient. I need to get to that pediatric patient that's in distress. I need to get to help that police officer that's out there.
Yes.
And you start having that internal dialogue like that's where everything starts to get convoluted. And you're like, well, my minimums are this, but I think I'll probably be okay doing X, Y, or Z. But that shouldn't be a factor in this entire process. And I think that we've done overall a decent job of trying to minimize the ability for that portion of the decision to be a factor. But it's still always going to be there because at the end of the day, we are all human. And, we catch word of it because we got a text message from somebody we know in that emergency department that says, hey, I'm transferring this patient out today. Or, you end up having access to some of the hospital stuff that you can see what kind of transfers are going on, or like all these things that are playing into it that, you try to take out the human factor aspect of it, but I don't think you'll ever get to 100% on that. No. And until we do, like, these decisions, I think are still going to always be like that. I think that's what gives people the most angst in those situations, and Blake can relate to this, for me or with me here, but like, it's the same concept of when you get in the back of that ambulance on a scene call and you have to make the decision to take that airway. Taking the airway is not the difficult part. The difficult part is making the decision to go down that route when it's those like borderline or like middle of the road things. And it's the same thing here where, it's not, when that go or no go is kind of like in that gray zone, you convince yourself in one way or another, which direction you're going to go because of the human factors that are involved in it. And somehow we have to figure out how to take that out of there. But, I think when we get into doing risk assessments when it comes to each of these missions, and I'm not taking away the importance of risk assessments at all, because I think that they are an integral part and need to be done before each mission. But I feel like a lot of times we end up getting lackadaisical with the importance or the kind of validity that we put onto some of these things. You don't want to let your crew down. 2, you want to be ready to go when you come in for your, your mission shift. And 3, you're like, oh, well, weather's good today, so we're going to go ahead and fly, and I'm going to get that adrenaline rush, and I'm going to be good to go. Even if I am a little bit on the tire side, whatever factors may be in there. So we want to make sure that frats are important and integrated into those daily briefs. But how do you think is the best way that we can kind of maintain either the relevance or the personal integrity or honesty of those frats when we have those human factors specifically that are involved in it?
Couple things. That's a great question. But before I give you the answer, I want to mention something. You said the word human factors over and over there. And that's the flaw in all this.
Yeah.
It's us.
It absolutely is.
And we just have to recognize that, and we have to admit it and go, okay, 95% of aviation accidents worldwide are caused by human factors. We are the problem, So with that said, what are some things? Well, with the FRAT, to take it, number one, to have a safety culture and a good SMS system within your unit is vital. That's the beginning of it. And knowing that you can say no and not be looked down upon, or not be made fun of, or not be ridiculed, or not be, hey, this is a money-making operation here at this Hawaiian tour helicopter. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
It's hard to say no for a lot of reasons. But if you get everybody involved in that risk assessment, I think that is a very important part. It doesn't matter, pilot, co-pilot, paramedic, nurse, mechanic, you name it. Everybody's involved in these decisions, and they all have an equal say. You said it earlier, there's no rank, no rank in the helicopter. Well, that's right. And that includes pilot and paramedic and nurse, for instance. There's nobody, I think there should be equal says. If one person of those 3 is like, this does not look right. This isn't right. And here's why. That should be good for everybody. Well, then we're not doing it. You know what I mean? Now that's easier said than done, but having input from all sides for us, like SWAT issues or the dive team, we would involve them in the risk analysis for a training day. They were sitting in the room, and we would say, well, what are some risks to you? And they'd say, well, what do you mean by risk? Well, this. And they go, oh, stepping off the helicopter is actually a risk, isn't it? You could come down on my toes with that skid, and it wouldn't be good. And we're like, that's right. So how can we mitigate that? And then we involved them. So I think that's a big one. Those are my top 2 that come to me. Number 1, we have to recognize that we are the problem. We are the weak link in all of this, because we are flawed, all of us, because we're human, and we let emotions get involved sometimes, adrenaline get involved, but we are also the cause of the problem. And then 2, getting a group effort. And it's hard. And you said it, Mike. Your industry has come a long way. I don't follow it close, but I know that one of the things that changed over the years was the information you got on that initial call.
Yeah.
That was a huge step forward. Now, you've just mentioned some interesting things that I wasn't aware of, that you can kind of get around that and learn a little bit more. But not saying there's a 3-year-old involved on the initial call. That's a big change, and that's for the better. No doubt about it. It's for the better. You guys have made great strides in your industry. I think ours has too. But the reality at the end of the day is, it's still 95% of the accidents are caused by us. So we can always get better. And we have to look at it constantly, and looking at the risk analysis constantly. And if we start letting our guard down, we're going to get bit. It's not going to be good. The outcomes aviation is very safe overall, but when it goes wrong, it's very unforgiving.
Catastrophic. Yeah.
Yes. And it goes wrong for so many reasons, many of which are in our control, not completely.
Right.
But many which we control in some way or another through maintenance or through currency or through training or through decision making. We control all that. So we have to do our best every day to do that.
One of the things that was kind of recently talked about was, and Mike, I believe we were kind of alluded to this with the focus debriefs and pre-mission briefings, with Sean Gavin, but also bringing in these frats into, not just in the morning, the daily brief, but for each response, and I think that was, we always use these terminologies like, well, we're not going to call them missions anymore because there's this inherent pressure that you have to go and get it done. Right. So we've tried to reframe that, right? We've tried to, or we don't usually get dispatched with any information. It's just a response, right? Or a request for service. But, like you said, the human factor is still there. We have ways around it.
Yeah.
and nobody's doing that maliciously.
No,
they're genuinely not.
Right.
It's just, we also want as much information as we can because we tell ourselves we're going to make the best decision. But we also bring that kind of self-induced pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we enhance or improve these frats? What are we missing when we talk about these? And how do we make that safer for us to make these decisions and bring that discussion forward? What are we missing when we talk about frats?
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140 plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
Wow. That's tough because you know what? We know we're missing stuff.
Yeah.
What are we missing? Well, if we knew, we'd probably fix it. So one of the things about hazards is the worst hazard is the unidentified hazard. I mean, so if that's true, and I believe that's true, it's a hazard that we did not do a FRAT about. We didn't include it in our flight risk assessment tool because we didn't even know about it. And it's there, and it's big, and nobody caught it. Those are the ones that really can come back and really hurt you. So, what can we do? The FRAT is a great tool. Many of them are computerized now, but you can handwrite them out still. I mean, but when I talk about beyond the FRAT, it's because there's always something that's not in that computer program. Mm-hmm. There's always something that's not in that risk matrix. And that's what you have to strive for. Something that you just didn't see coming. I'll give a great example. So our aviation unit got a call one day from one of the police divisions that said, hey, we're having a golf tournament. It's raising money for the station. And we would like you guys to come out and drop golf balls. Everybody pays $10 for a golf ball number. All the golf balls are numbered, and the winner gets $500.
Closest to the whole wins.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a great money raiser. Would you guys be willing to do that? And we said, wow, we've never done that. But so I learned through Marco that we would say, tentative yes, we'll get back to you. And we investigated it. Long story short, we did it. And it was very safe, very controlled. There was very few obstacles at this particular golf course. It was wide open. There weren't trees. It was really easy, actually. But there was a full risk analysis done, and we chose to do it. Well, the phone starts ringing. Once you do it once, get ready. And on the third one, we did it. And Marco and I would go to the golf course on the ground and in the air. And we would look at it from aerial view and on the ground. We'd drive around on a golf cart and look at obstacles and hazards and make a list and everything. On the third one, it was a little tighter, but it was doable. Here's beyond the frat. Here we go. When we come in to do it that day, everything's going perfectly. The weather's perfect. There's no issues. Come in, and I come to a hover, and beyond the frat, the sun is directly in my eyes where I can't even see looking out where I need to hover to now to get this mission done, to get over the green where we're going to dump these balls.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't out there that time of day.
Yeah.
We were there. I was on that fairway 3 hours earlier, 3 or 4 days before. Never, ever, ever thought about the sun being in my eyes late in the day. And now here I am at a hover, and I can't even look straight ahead. I have to look out the side to see where the heck I am.
Right.
And we had to change things on the fly, slowly, safely. Pilot next to me says, hey, you can turn your tail and we can slide left. Your tail is clear, Jack. I mean, it isn't even close because I can't see it, And we do it. We accomplish the mission. Everything's fine. However, we felt stupid later and said, boy, how did we miss that? How did we miss that? It should be obvious. That's part of the environmental thing that we talk about and check boxes about, and just the sun being in your eyes for a planned event almost made that a high risk mission. At a hover over a fairway. I mean, of all things. So yes, beyond the frat, there's always something. And our job as professionals is to try and limit the number of those things and try and get it to zero. I think that's impossible, but I think we have to strive to get that to zero as best we can. And that's why you go to classes and you hear people's stories and of success and failures and hazards. And next thing you know, you're thinking about that. The sun became a part of our future frats.
Yeah.
I'll add a funny part to that story. That particular golf ball drop was for a fundraiser for a school where a sergeant's daughter went. And we said from day one, we shouldn't be doing this one. This is one we shouldn't do. And we were overruled by rank. Marco and I are the lowest on the totem pole. We said, no, you're doing it. Okay, if you can do it safely, you're doing it. Well, we can do it safely, but we shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
We were at that hover, and I've got a picture of it. A Los Angeles Times photographer was up in the trees and took a picture of that. 3 days later, we were on the front page of the Los Angeles Times. That's the last golf ball drop that division's ever done. It's been 12 years. So we told them we shouldn't be doing this, not for safety reasons, but that was part of our planning. Why are we doing this? We had done it with the scuba divers.
Right.
Why are we doing this? Well, if we're doing it to help a children's hospital, okay. I think we can justify that. If we're doing it for a division that's making money for their station, I think we can justify that. But some coppers, private school, no, it's ridiculous. We deserve to get spanked on that one. And like I said, that was the last one. It was a great picture too. Golf balls are coming out. It's really cool.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think you brought up a lot of really good points within that story. I think first and foremost, when we talk about risk, like we all get into this job understanding that there is inherent risk. Like if you don't want risk associated with it, don't leave the ground. And I think that we accept that fact coming into this industry. And I think if you have any other belief about that coming into this, then you're sorely mistaken. So we accept that there is some risk that's there. I think that where that comes into play with some of the things that you were talking about was having enough of that just culture in place to be able to objectively look at those risks and then find ways to mitigate the ones that you can and figure out if the ones that you can't are factors that are a no-go, right? And you need to be able to have those open and honest conversations, knowing that whatever the outcome is, good, bad, or indifferent of that decision, it's going to be supported.
Yes.
Right. So you need to have that aspect of it. But I think that when we talk about doing some of these things, you're talking about doing the golf ball drops. We can relate that to maybe, I know that there's a bunch of organizations within HEMS that do like the football delivery on like Friday night games or things like that. Same concept, right?
A lot of those going on now.
It's great to have that PR and that interaction with the community and that involvement. And I think that there's so much benefit to doing some of those things. But I think where we get into the weeds sometimes is the complacency that we build with doing those things over and over and over again. And I think that's where we can sometimes get into trouble, right? Like when you talk about that specifically, going back to your example, oh, well, I've done, a couple hundred of these golf ball drops. It's no big deal. I don't need to think about these other factors. I've been past this LZ 100 times. I know where I'm going. Like, you start to let your guard down a little bit, and you can't ever do that. Like, no one can let their guard down. Every single mission you leave the door, you need to approach it as though it's your first, even if it's your 1,000th time doing it. Because
very important what you just said, Mike. Very important.
You're going to encounter something different. And I think that we try to do a really good job within our risk assessments of taking into account all of the factors. I look at my agency and how our FRAT has evolved over the years. And I also think about to when I first started in the industry at a different company. And when we would start our morning briefs, it would just be the pilot would tell us, okay, our FRAT today is this. There was no involvement from the med crew. There was no, hey, how are you feeling today? There was no, what are your human factors involved in this? To keep that was part of the overall FRAT of the crew. And so now I look at where we're at now, where, each crew member has their individual FRAT, and then there are factors that are a conglomerate between all of us. And we try to take into account, we bring specialty with us. Have we done 3 other flights within the shift already? Did we have a significant event? Is this patient an ECMO patient? Like all of these other things that factor into that. But you're right, it's impossible to really think about every single one of those external factors. So like we are, as we mentioned, type A, we need to have control over everything. We need to have everything thought through. We want to know all the information ahead of time so I can get a game plan. And then when that game plan goes to shit, then you're like, well, now what? And you have to be able to kind of roll with those punches, but roll with them in a way that doesn't take away from the safety side of things and the looking at the overall risk, which I think is sometimes the difficult part to do.
It is.
I think that all of those things that you kind of mentioned kind of meld together. And even though, those are examples that maybe we don't encounter very often in HEMS, I think that they're examples that can be 100% related to what each and every one of us are doing every day on the public safety aviation side, no matter what realm you're in. And that's why I love the points that you brought up about all that, because I think that this all ties together, right? And I think that's where it kind of takes me with the next question when we talk about all of these factors, and specifically those human factors. How do we ensure that, and I think I know what you're going to end up saying to this, but how do we ensure that all of these crew members are integrated into that process, as opposed to just focusing on the aviation part of it? And how do we make sure that each of those members feel equal importance or, overall heard in that moment?
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Valor Flight Crew podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned air medical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services. with 140 plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors. Thanks to our sponsor, Copter Safety. Based in Finland, Copter Safety is the leading, globally approved simulator training center. They provide a full range of courses for AW139, AW169, H125, and H145 pilots. Customize your special missions training with realistic visuals and specialized instructors. Stay one step ahead of reality with Copter Safety.
That wraps up this episode of the Valor Flight Crew podcast. A big thanks to our guest, Jack Shanley, for reminding us that risk management isn't just about charts and checklists. It's about people, perspective, and the choices we make when the pressure's on. His stories are a great reminder that staying safe doesn't just mean playing it safe. It means leading with humility, learning from experience, and trusting the team beside you. If you enjoyed today's conversation, we'd love for you to share it with your team and join us in keeping these stories and lessons alive across the public safety aviation community. Be sure to like and subscribe for future episodes that promote the personnel and life-saving equipment behind helicopter air ambulance services. Until next time, stay safe, trust in your team, and challenge each other to truly mitigate our risks by looking beyond the FRAT.